Right guys, we're going to get straight into this. I've removed the donut, or the guibo, that's been removed. Okay, because, I should show you. This is what the dismantlers do when they pull cars out of Japan. They get the gas axe and just cut through the drive shaft. 30mm nut, long socket. Rattle that off. Take this off. Now what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be fitting an adapter onto this a650. So this is the 5-speed box. And then we're going to mock it up for fitting a Gen 3 Surf, which is a left transfer case. Although in this case it's actually going into a 90 series Prado. The gearbox having oil in it was not predicted. I thought we drained this one. Oh. Oh. Right, we're going to take a moment and we're going to drain some oil out of this gearbox, otherwise I'm going to make a massive mess. Right, I'm less some oil now, and I've cleaned the bench as good as I could. I was all prepped too. As you can see, standard, there is no gasket around here, so it gives you some options of whether you want to run a gasket or not. This is a big one-way clutch, okay, and it is particular to these 5-speed boxes. I should call them a transmission. So written on the side of the box, we've got 3550, and that is an a650. Same gear selector combo switch, or start inhibit combo switch, as some of the earlier UCF20 vehicles. "12-pin solenoid plug, speed sensor, and the other speed sensor is gone. This one by comparison is an A761. They also come in A760s. Second digit of the number, so the 676, 6-speed, the other one's 650, the 5 is 5-speed. We've got a different switch on the side. I should have gone through the shifter. I've got 1 position, 2 positions, 3 positions, 4 positions. And we've got this overrun on the 6-speed. These ones also have the big casing on the side. The drain or the filler bung is under there. And the rear speed sensor is in the transmission body, where the 5-speed, it's in the tail housing. This one we've already cut this length, so that one's got an adapter on it already. It's becoming a 4-wheel drive, and we've already cut it off to length. These bolts are not a 1.25 pitch. They are 10 by 1.5, which is a little unusual for Toyotas, but they seem to use it in this position on a lot of models. So it happens on the 4-wheel drives as well. They run those same 10 by 1.5 bolts. Gear select position on this one, even though the sun's causing havoc, is 6 positions. 1, 2, I can't do it, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 positions. The bit we're interested in is this bit and the adapter. There is a gasket. You notice there's a cutout. Now I actually don't normally use the gasket, so that is a choice whether you want to use it or not. Same as the next surface on this adapter, whether you want to use the gasket or not. And we're going to play that way. Okay, so when you're doing your measurements, if you're measuring up, you want to check that. Let's measure our distance. That's 80mm there to that surface. Oh, it's not actually, it's a little bit less. Okay, so we've got these masters in here that are bigger. So one's going to go on that one up there, and one's going to go on the big one at the bottom, the one down there. Beautiful, beautiful. If I seem lost, it's because I'm lost. I had to do a mod on this. I'd forgotten that there was a little design error, and Sammy knew about it, and it was one of his earlier ones, but we've sorted it. We knew about it. We solved it, and we've done a really nice job. And the issue was it didn't have the locators to stop the one-way clutch from floating. So we've plug welded in 3 stoppers in there at the right height. Okay, so that, and you'll see that slides in nicely. Now, when you're putting it together, there is this fella here, and so those there have to line up with those spots there and there. And this works a bit like a spring. And what I do is I normally mark where these are. There and there. Now, oil feed. There's an oil feed here. I've also got the seal. So there's the seal. And that fits into there. So that needs to be fitted just before the final assembly. So this sleeve, and you'll see here, of course it doesn't go all the way in. So this is going to need to be cut down. So we need to get in and measure up the distance from this surface through this unit to this surface here to work out the length of your shaft. That is very, very important. Thank you very much. Hole here, and there's a line on there because the oil comes out through there, through this here, and in the factory one, where did I put it? Over here. It goes through the center of here, and then it's got these grooves there to allow the oil to flow down the outside of the bearing and back through the bearing and exit back into the transmission. And I think it's really important to understand how this stuff works, because then you know what possible problems you might have. So we're going to have an oil feed here, and that is a measured leak within this transmission. So what I recommend is when this goes on, a little bit of sealant is popped on. Either side, doesn't matter. Can go on that side, just to stop any oil coming through into this area here, which is a dry zone. So that's in between, in this area here, that's a dry zone. So this is going to end up cutting off probably about there. And I'm not giving exact measurements for a really good reason, guys. And the reason being, get in there and measure it, do the calculations. If you are using the gaskets, then calculate for the gaskets. If you're not using gaskets, then the measurement will be different. And by learning to measure every single one, you learn how to do every single adapter. You're not relying upon someone else to give you the measurement. You can work on it and find it yourself. So that's going to be the sleeve. Of course, this is going to be cut down. This is a 6-speed, and it was cut at that spot there because the adapter is different for the 6-speed than the 5-speed. What I recommend you do is don't have the shafts touching here. You want a little, like 2 mils of clearance between the shafts. You also want to check the pressure or the squish in here. So if this sleeve is putting too much pressure on there, then you're going to be forcing this into there, and that is not ideal. You want it to have either be just touching or just ever so slightly floating, okay? But we're talking, you know, 1/4 millimeter of float. If you are worried about this moving, a drill and a grub screw is a solution. And that will stop that speed sensor from flopping around. And that's what we do on a lot of the speed sensor holding that we do. Tiny wee hole, tap it, grub screw. Unfortunately, where they put that oil feed, you can't get to it nicely with a grub screw, and just put the grub screw into the oil feed hole. Okay, if you sandwich it all up tight, you're going to have failures. You're going to be putting strain onto places where you shouldn't be putting strain. Come on, baby. And there we are. I just checked all the bolts would go in, but it's bolted up. Now, when you are bolting this up with this fella in there, this is a springy thing. So this will sit in nicely, but that last little bit, it actually puts a little bit of pressure on that one-way clutch. So you will feel that. You need to check that that isn't fouling or there's nothing going wrong. So it's kind of funny because you want to have some feel, but you also want it to slip on nicely. Sleeve in, check the measurements are correct for the transfer case so it all slips up and it all bolts together nicely.